Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Tristan Merrick here, the digital storyteller, and I am super excited to be with you once again for another episode of Creative to Creative, the podcast that I just wanted to create because I want to talk to all the coolest, fun, creatives that I know that are out there. This creative today that I'm going to have a conversation with, his name is, oh my gosh, Adrian Wallace. He is an actor, director, writer. He is just my dude, man. First and foremost, he's from Malton, so big up to Malton. And as I bring him in, let's just put our hands together for Adrian Wallace. What's up? What's up, big boy?
Hey, man, thanks for having me, Tristan. You know, MA stand up.
Hey, MA stand up. Let's get it. Yeah. Malton. Let's talk about that. First and foremost, Malton kid, born and raised on the playgrounds where you spent most of your days. Explain to me, tell the people about you being from Malton and how important that is to you, bro.
Yeah, man. Nah, I mean, Malton's where, it all got started, just a small neighborhood on the outskirts of Mississauga. Funny story. I don't feel like Mississauga ever really wanted Malton to be part of it, but we're not going to get into the polys right now. You know what I'm saying? There's so much more to discuss, but listen, I just know, man's like me and Tristan appreciate Malton. We know where we're from. We know where we're going, but never forget where you're from. And, small city outside of, the outskirts of Mississauga, Toronto, whatever. One of those neighborhoods that everybody knows everyone, and during our times, Tristan, you could probably say the same, it was kind of rough, there were incidents happening every other day, if not every day. Right. So, it was a little hard to navigate around. I didn't do, all of my school there. I did like my preteen kind of school there. So from, kindergarten, grade 1s through 5, and then 6. And then my mom's like, okay, had enough. I'm not about to waste this guy's brain in Malton, so she sent me off to French immersion in Brampton, where I went to W.D. Davis and then Turner Fenton and so on.
Turner, Turner was kind of rough still.
And my mom thought she was doing me a service by getting me out of Malton, but I just went into a whole other leap of drama and rap. My high school years were terrible, to be honest, but we're not gonna get into that. But high school was terrible for me, bro. It was bad. I probably would have been better off in Malton. Nah, I'm kidding. Like, it was one of those things. It was one of those things where I did really, really good in like the pre-early classes in French. Like, I was just getting straight A's. I was like, yo, this second language thing is easy. It's a breeze. And then I went to a real French school and I struggled for the whole first year. So, but my mom saw those early A's in French and second language studies, and she thought like, I gotta put it to good use. So that's why, she had good intention to send me off to the French schools to learn a little bit more and maybe even get a job out of it later, But yeah, man, I was always tied to the passions of, filmmaking and acting. So eventually that's where my heart took me. But I do think about often how much money I could have made in the government system speaking French every now and then.
Well, that's what everybody says, right? So many black kids say that, right? Because I think in a lot of ways our parents, like, they were just trying to survive, right? They're first generation. Most of our parents are first generation immigrants, right? If they're here and they're black, especially from the West Indies, they're first generation immigrants. We are the first generation Canadians of our families. So, the first instinct of a immigrant parent is not to learn another language. It's to survive. It's to just get into school, work hard, and get a sustained way of being able to provide for yourself, right? So, I think that plays a lot into your journey as well, because I think, you're very much taking a different route, right, than many black young males, many black people in general that are first generation Canadians, where it's like, our parents sent us to school or wanted us to go to school, we're either in social work, nursing, teachers, or something else, right? So we're not really necessarily doing what is known that most black immigrant kids do, right? We're doing something totally different. We're doing the arts, and we're not doing it from a performance-based standpoint. We're actually doing it, well, in a way it's a performance, but in a way it's a lot more elevated in the sense of like, we're creating things that are shaping culture. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about like how you even got into that? Because again, for those of you who don't know that are listening to this conversation, Adrian is a tall, brown skin, fully bearded black man, okay, from Malton, but yet still he's a dope writer, dope creative, director and actor. like how did you become a kind of transition from just being sort of stereotypical to like this sort of savant in terms of your area of expertise?
Yeah, man. I think I was definitely I think like I got into this industry strictly from acting. Like I knew from a yay high age, young age, I've always wanted to get into acting. Acting just looked like one of the coolest, most fun jobs in the world. You know, imagine your position or your role in the universe is to embody a bunch of different characters, different career paths. Like it's the only job in the world that will actually allow you to become all the jobs that you ever wanted to do. And I'm like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
that's the best job in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
I took notice to that at a very young age, you know, watching like the Jim Carreys and the Eddie Murphys and the Robin Williams and the Will Smith and the Denzel, you know, some of my favorites to ever do it. So I just thought it was a really cool thing, and I thought I had that built-in talent to do it. But from maybe I guess trying it out at a young age as a child, and having my mom try to work, but also try to support me talent-wise and take me out to auditions, and me not having a car, not being able to drive, like it did get to a point where she couldn't handle it anymore, and then I had to kind of wait out the gap until I was able enough and grown enough to do it myself, to take myself out to these auditions. And I just went through a very frustrated time of like trying to put myself out there and get auditions and book commercials or whatever it was, background acting, whatnot. I had to deal with a lot of like being taken advantage of from fake agents and not
Yeah.
getting paid for what I did because I'm naive, I'm gullible, I'm just trying to get in the industry and show my face, say, hey, I'm here. But yeah, so I mean, it was really my love for acting that made me explore the different options that I'm known for doing today, which is directing and writing. I realized I came to a point where I was like, you know what, um, if I'm not going to get the opportunities, and if I'm going to continue to wait for by the phone for example, a casting director to say you're good enough to make a film, it could take my whole life. So why not learn the skills, learn the tools, that I can actually create my own opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
like a Tyler Perry who,
Mm-hmm.
writes his own scripts, but then he cameos in his own scripts and he builds his own characters, right? I'm just like what's stopping me from doing that?
Yeah.
So it was just something that kind of pushed me and motivated me to give myself the skills, to learn the skills and the tools that I can actually literally create my own opportunities, right? And then the writing and directing naturally became another thing that I can kind of pitch, that I can actually do from doing it so often, from self-funding my own projects and from creating my own opportunities. And then, skip to today where, I like to consider myself, an author where I can write, I could direct and act. So yeah, it really was the acting that kind of pushed me to want to tell
Mm-hmm.
stories in all those different avenues, man.
Well, I mean, man, that was a mouthful, but I think that you touched on so many great things. I think for me, what makes me smile about your story is like I can relate to the whole like background acting thing, like being like, yo, listen, man, like, all right, extras on set, quiet on set. You never actually ever talk to the second. If you talk to the second AD, then you're special, but you're not talking to the first AD. You're not talking to the director, right? And for those of you
Nope.
that don't know about the whole hierarchy, if you're on like a big film set or television set and you're a background actor, the person that's on the production team that takes care of the background actors is the third AD, which is somebody that's like probably just getting into the industry as well. Has a
Yeah.
couple of things on their belt, and they're like the straggler of the production team too, and they have to take care of all these stragglers. And let me tell you something, I got fat off of those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on white bread, on Wonder Bread, right? And
Oh,
those hard
good.
boiled eggs and what else? You know what I mean? But it just reminds me that this is all a process. You know what I mean? Adrian, like I wonder if you could unpack your thought process when you were thinking about those times where you could see where you could be, but you couldn't actually get there. Like what were those moments like where you were really discouraged, but or you knew that this is the route you were supposed to go? Like how did you get through those moments?
Man, that's a that's a heavy question, but a very very good one, because I think we as creatives all kind of go through that point. Just being a black man trying to navigate the industry, like there's already obstacles on top of it that just come
Talk
with
about it.
with
Yep.
the title. And one of those big things was paying for education, or paying for the opportunity. A lot of these opportunities are not just freely given. Some of them you have to come up with tuition fees or apply to even get your name out there, or to get, even seen or looked at. So, a lot of these opportunities were attached with money, like acting schools or, film school. Ultimately, I know there's OSAP, but that's another obstacle that you're gonna have to face afterwards. That people are still facing today. Paying off their debts. So, nah, it was hard, man. I think what solidified this journey, that this was the more righteous journey for me, was the fact that I did try to navigate other things. I did try to entertain the parent options, as you put it. Immigrants,
Hmm.
parents always expecting us to be the next lawyer, the next doctor, but I knew that wasn't, instilled in me. I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do, and I tried it. I took late night, classes doing law school and practicing law and studying law. I studied kinesiology. Like I even went back to school after I graduated from high
Wow.
school to do all these classes, to really just say, you know what? At least at the end of the year, I can say I tried, I studied it, and if I want to go beyond that, I have the prerequisites to do it. But man, my heart kept speaking to me, saying, "Listen, man, like, this, like, you have to really follow your passions," and that's ultimately what I did. And so I think through the measure of actually, studying the more popular or parent preferred, topics and career paths, I think through actually trying it, I had to keep real with myself. My heart kept telling me, listen, like, you were meant for greater things. Not saying, the career path I chose is greater than lawyering or doctor. I'm not saying that at all. We all have our contributions to how we make the world run. But I just knew, through trial and error, that storytelling and the film industry and entertainment was what I was gonna live and breathe.
Hmm. No, that's
Yeah.
that's powerful. That's powerful. So talk to me a little bit about this, this little project, which is not really little at all, but courtside. How did that come about? Like, because I think many people, they get excited about the outcome, but they don't understand the inception, and they don't understand the process, and they don't understand the incubation of it, of a thought, and then the development of it being what it is. So talk to us, share a little bit about, not even a little bit, share a lot about what it took to develop that project, courtside.
Yeah, no, I think you touched on some good points, because I feel like we're all idealists. Anyone can come up with an idea, but it's really the planning and the
Mm-hmm.
incubation, like you said, and the execution of that idea that basically just separates you from being another person who comes up with great ideas.
Yep.
Courtside was originally pitched as a like an IP project, or I should say like a web series project. So I took a course in my last year of film school. It was brand new at the time. I was kind of like one of the guinea pigs to try it out, and it was heavily focused on the new kind of way to tell stories, called transmedia, which is taking an idea and like kind of like we're talking about now, transcending it into a majority of things. Simpsons being like the perfect example of an idea that's been transcended beyond its imagination. There's toys, there's merchandise, there's clothes, there's comic books. There's episodic shows, of course. It's the longest running season on TV right now, and there's obviously movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about taking an idea and like kind of pre-planning like all the different ways you can tell a story through different digital medias, right? So I had pitched. So one of the focus um, lessons or classes within that course was web series. Web series at that time, I don't want to age myself by giving you the time, but at that time, web series was like the newest, hottest thing right now. It's like, oh, like we're giving creators the power to tell their story exactly how they want, and like drop it on Vimeo or drop it on YouTube, and like there's nobody saying, oh, you can't do this, or oh, you got to carve 20 minutes out of your show because we want to put commercials here, right? It was really um, an opportunity for creators like myself to have the power to like literally run the whole show, tell it how it is without any obstacles or anything that prohibits you to do or tell any story in any way you wanted, right? And that was the beauty of the internet at the time, especially like YouTube. But yeah, courtside. So it originally started as an idea that I pitched to get funding for an IP fund that was sponsored by Bell at the time, and it's about two brothers essentially trying to navigate through the hood and deal with the obstacles that come with it. On one side you have Jay, who's a high school basketball prospect, full ride looking, scholarships knocking on his door, academically gifted, but also gifted in the basketball world. a guy like that has to really stay on a narrow path to really,
Mm.
chase a pro career in basketball. On the other side, you have his brother Marcus, not so academically inclined. He's more about that money, power, respect, that those immediate rewards. The quick access to things and the reputation. But his silver lining is that he's musically inclined. So he had the potential to be the next Dre if he just stays focused, type of thing. But
Mhm.
it really was a show about how these two brothers can kind of keep each other in line without trying to step on each other's toes, but also navigate through all the obstacles that come with living in a rough neighborhood.
Mhm.
Low income situations. I grew up the same way. This was a show that was definitely inspired by real life things that I saw happening, in my backyard or just around me through a friend or through a friend of a friend. People, or I would say women, getting pregnant at a very young age. Obviously, we're young, we're trying to experiment things. There's a lot of things that happen, and it's ultimately about how these youth deal with all the obstacles that kind of come slamming down on us. The peer pressures,
Mhm.
with drugs and trying to fit in crowds and taking part of gangs and initiations just to be cool or just to survive, really. In everyday public life and communities like the ones that we grew up in. So it really did deal with a lot of social or social youth attached issues that we all probably grew up with.
And and
So
I think the thing
yeah,
that I really liked about the series was there was a level of humanity that was given to each character and to the community. It wasn't just tropes. You know what I mean? The characters actually had some depth. They had heart. They had a perspective, and I think oftentimes when we're dealing with black people, our people, we oftentimes can get as writers or other people that are writing for us can get kind of cornered into creating the prototypical, stereotypical black role. Whether it's for me when I was acting, I was getting typecasted as the pimp, the hood man, or the guy in jail. That's it. Those are the three things, and it partially was because I
yeah,
had a big afro and I could braid it and I could whatever, but it was also because that's what as writers they were shaping as the narrative of who we were. So it was really interesting in taking in some of Courtside, just the way that you and your co-creator were able to kind of bring the humanity back into those types of characters. So it wasn't just another. It wasn't like a watered down Wire. It was like a Wire, but its own flavor. Its own version of that.
yeah.
It wasn't trying to run away from being Canadian or run away from being authentically Malton in certain areas. So I could really respect that. And just talking a little bit about that, like why did you feel like that was so important?
Yeah, no, I think we made it like from the tip of the scale. I think one of our biggest focuses was to create a show that really was authentic, that felt raw, that felt real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason, for example, why we went with working with friends and family as opposed to professional trained actors. I was essentially the only actor that ever had any type of professional training, and I wanted to keep it that way because, I wasn't asking my actors to do anything that they've never felt before, never did before. Everyone's been sad, everyone's been angry about something, everyone's cried over something. So I really wanted those real life emotions to kind of be activated through the making of the show. And I gave a lot of, I gave pretty much everyone that was involved in the show a lot of freedom to kind of bring their own flavor to the show, as you mentioned. And that's what kind of that's why we got so many commendations for how they felt it was really raw and authentic. If I had brought in a whole bunch of actors, not dissing them and all, but if I had to originally kind of pitch the story, people might have said it was a little bit too forced. And it's funny you mentioned The Wire because The Wire was a big inspiration for this. I binge watched that whole first season,
I
and The
mean,
Wire was
come
a
on,
huge.
shout out to the Wire, man. Let's shout out the Wire.
Yeah. The Wire is probably one of the most respected, acclaimed TV shows. From the writing to the talent, to the
which
performance
which
that the talent brought.
which by the way, fun fact, The Wire, although people say it's the best series ever, whatever else, none of the actors have ever won any Emmy awards. The show has never, I don't think, has ever won any Emmy awards, but it's still one of the best series. Like they're saying, like basically
Yeah,
it's almost like people say, depending on your taste, they say either it's The Sopranos or it's The Wire, and most people say it's The Wire. So, and The Sopranos
Yeah,
had so many of these awards, and it just so happens that the Black Show
yeah.
got zero awards. But anyways, I
And
digress.
it and you already know the politics behind that and the Academy
Yeah.
Awards. Sometimes it's for optics, sometimes it's just just I don't know. Like there's so many ways we can talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it goes to show you the people that actually watch it, the audiences, they know a good show and they could appreciate a good show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the just to kind of go back, the show was initially pitched as a project, obviously to get done. I was assigned to get it done, but the goal was to get or sorry, to apply for the Bell Fund that came out at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
year, around April times. But we got rejected. We didn't get it in. And the ask for that particular application was a sizzle reel. So I had to find in this whole universe of the show that is now courtside on YouTube for free. You can check it out. 2 to 3 minutes that best represented the show. Like that's really hard. So what we did is we shot a scene that happens later in life. I don't want to spoil it, but we shot a scene that happens kind of future. So with the pre-existing series that we kind of reinvented later, a year later, and put on YouTube for free, and just kind of let it organically do its numbers. Like this scissor reel that we had pitched to Bell, and I had shot and wrote and finished in school, happens like later in the story timeline. But ultimately, we didn't get through with it, and that was kind of another kicker to really make us kind of go back and say, okay, you know what do we really need to do to drive the show? I went from a color to being shot in black and white, which was done by design. And there's a lot of things that you can do when someone tells you no. Like it's an opportunity for you to evolve and get better. You don't have to just take it and sulk about it and like, cry about it. Like that is an opportunity for you to kind of step up and step out, and that's exactly what we did. So after taking that year back after rejection and graduating from school, I got with my co-creator Amran. Shout out Amran Omaid, and I took him to the corner. I'm like, "Yo, Amran, man, I don't know if you've seen the vision before in school, but this is literally the vision." I took him to Wildwood Park. We sat on the bench. Every
Shout
court
out to
was full.
Wildwood. Big up
You know
yourself,
what I
Wildwood
mean?
Park,
I literally
and the
literally
McDonald's
took
right
him to
across the
the
street. Sorry,
straight up,
sorry,
man.
bro.
Yo, hey, man, that was like a safe haven while we're shooting it. By the way, we had to break for food, and that McDonald's came clutch. That McDonald's has been part of our life. You know what I mean? But forever. Yeah, I literally took him to the court, and I literally like I was able to give him the visual without even speaking too much. I'm like, this is courtside. And in that moment, it was just silence. We sat there, we watched people play ball for like 15 minutes straight. And it's like everything that I was trying to tell him before under the structure of school, like just made sense to him. So we hit back to the lab, we rewrote the pilot, and, we took a weekend, we shot it out. I casted, like I said, my brothers, my friends, people that were like close to us, people that, I know were dealing with the same struggles that I was, you know what I mean? And yeah, we put out a pilot on Vimeo, and it kind of boomed, and people were hitting me up all of a sudden saying, "Yo, like, where's the rest of it?" And that was a validation for me that, like, maybe we needed that no to kind of push it to where it was now, because maybe it wasn't strong enough now for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the guys that we pitched it to didn't give us any real reasons as to why why they
Yeah.
weren't going to give us money. It was one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, we prefer comedies because they're safer. It was like, we don't know where this is going to market towards. Like, we have a whole community to market this to. What do you mean? I guess at the time we could improve it, but sometimes you apply for these things, you don't get the right reception or the right um, reasons that you need to really take it and apply it to make it better. But we took that, and we evolved it, and now it's a 6 episode series on YouTube you can watch for free, and we've been successful, starting like to kind of like get it into the rooms of like the CBCs, just to kind of let them know who we are as creators, what we're
Yeah.
working on, and we're definitely open to rebooting the whole show, because obviously we shot the whole thing on our own dime, on our own budget, but that's definitely a show that has superb legs, and we'll work it and find the right home for it one day for sure. So yeah, man.
No, that's powerful, and I think there's so many things to be said about that. I love the fact that you described being told no as like an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to push forward. I think many times I can be fully transparent. Many times I've been told no, and it sucks. It really sucks, and sometimes it can be derailing in moments.
Mhm.
But then once you get refocused, it's like that also becomes the fuel to prove people wrong and to focus in on your craft and home in on you, who you are, and the story that you want to tell. But then you also have the freedom of being your own boss and being the person or persons that shape the narrative, right? Because oftentimes what people don't tell you is that, yeah, you get a TV deal, you get a network deal, you get a commercial deal, you get whatever else, but there's strings attached to that. You know what I mean? Whether or not owning all of your stories, original stories, whether it's distribution rights, whether it's creative input, whether it's allowing you to actually be the director or allowing you to be a character in your own films that you're or your own stories that you're telling. You know, one of the most powerful things about specifically about Tyler Perry is that he actually gets to do all those things. Like he owns all of the rights to all of his stuff. Now, the distribution deals are just that. The studios distribute his stuff, right?
Hmm.
But he produces, his studio produces, writes, and collaborates with the other studios to then distribute it out, right? So he may not have the money. He may not get that money. He may get a percentage of the distribution, but overall, at the end of the day, if he wants to do whatever he wants to do with those characters, with the plays, with the TV shows, all of that stuff, he has the control to do it. Now again, we
Yep.
can argue, you know, up and down, left and right, whether or not he has great stories and great shows and all other stuff. That's a different topic for a different day. But the idea of having the creative control ultimately is where you want to be as a creative. You don't want to be in a place where you're giving away all your ideas. And yeah, you may get, you know, $10,000 sounds like a big deal, $20,000, $50,000. But if a network buys your script for $50,000 and then they make, you know, $500 million because they made 10 seasons off of your idea and off your initial script, and you're walking away with $50,000, you're gonna feel like a complete idiot, right? So it's really about, you know, the whole idea of leveraging the power of being able to build your audience yourself versus pitching to a corporate audience or a commercial audience. And could you talk to you know, the viewers and listeners a little bit about that, Adrian? Because I think, you know, there's two mindsets. There's one mindset that's a little bit more traditionalist. We put together a sizzler and maybe we put together one or two pilot episodes and then we pitch it to a network, to a CBC, to a CTV, to an NBC, ABC, Fox, whatever else, you know, BT, and we try and pitch it and then we get the funding and they hire us to be the writers or the directors and then we create what we want to create. But then obviously we have to split the profit a lot more versus building your audience from the grassroots, let's say on a YouTube or on a Vimeo, you know, or even from the film festival circuit, right? You build your audience and then you have a certain level of following that when you put out something, you get 500,000 views guaranteed. You get, you know, people buying, you know, 30,000 copies or rentals of your movie or whatever else. And then you go pitch it and then you start getting those deals. What do you think is what's more of the path that makes sense for you? And what are your thoughts on sort of those two approaches?
Yeah, no. They're two very unique, viable approaches. There's so many things that I learned, like just being where I'm at and sitting in the chair that I'm at now. You know, especially with courtside. You know, we didn't really have the marketing power to really, um, you know, get it out there the way we wanted. You know, maybe we probably tried and attempted to do like a 1-2 Facebook ads, but it's like even then you really need to know like what exactly you're putting your money to. Like, you know, you have to know the analytics, and that's where you have to let the experts kind of be the experts. That's why there's people in marketing that specialize in these things. And at the time, like we're coming off directing and writing and then acting for some of us. And then on top of that, we're already burnt out creatively, but yet we're gonna worry. But like it's too much. And trust me, if I can go back, I would have done things a lot more better, you know. So like I said, like on YouTube, the numbers are what it's at. It's organic, you know. We kind of just let it do its thing. But yeah, I mean the film festival run definitely will help any project that you put out in terms of exposure. And a lot of film festivals like to be the first to kind of exclusively premiere your stuff. You know, Courtside was luxurious enough to have gotten to a bunch of film festivals around the world, and it's got screened globally. And I think that's probably what helped give it some of its legs. That like there's people like on different sides of the world that actually wanted to see your content. But yeah, I mean, if you can create a commodity behind your project, if you can create your own kind of marketing power, you can get like a crowd-funded project going. You know, it's really power to the people, and if you can get the people behind you, you know, it definitely helps your situation when it comes to pitching it to the big networks. You know, networks are all about stats. They're all about, you know, data. Like I learned recently that, you know, Netflix will make a decision on whether your show is going to have a season two within 28 days. So let's say I get greenlighted for a show within 28 days. How many people binge watch it? Where the people binge watched it? All those analytics, they're analyzed in just 28 days, and they
That's
determine whether
crazy.
you're going to get a season two or not, which is insane,
That's
right?
crazy.
That,
Which
so
reminds
it's
me,
it,
which
yeah.
reminds me to say, like, for those of you that are not watching, Dad, please don't embarrass me. Watch that. Jamie Foxx stars in it. David Allen Greer. I want a second season for that. Just saying, it's a dope show. Go on, go on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially, being a father and, being able to relate to those
Absolutely,
nuances.
absolutely, and I
Yeah.
think that I didn't
Still
know
have to
about
check
that
it out.
stat. I didn't know about that stat, Adrian, because I thought, again, you think about it, 28 days. 28 days. You have 28 days to be able to show whether or not people, this is a viable thing, and that's not only does that create unrealistic pressure and expectations, but then it also doesn't give time for a project to organically breathe and pick up legs, because not everybody
Yeah,
has time to sit down and binge. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I actually am appreciating about other platforms outside of Netflix, whether it's Amazon Prime or Disney Plus, is that they're going still the route of traditionally releasing episodes 1 week at a time, and I actually enjoy the process of waiting. There's more of an
yeah, the
anticipation.
anticipation build up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's more of an appreciation for that one episode versus just binging it, and oh yeah, something
yeah,
happened in this episode. No, it was in this. I don't know. I watched 2 episodes in a row, and I was also reading, and I was also cooking. You know what I mean?
yeah. But it's funny you mentioned that because man, courtside was such an experimental and valuable lesson because we wanted to create that commodity of an audience where it's like, oh, look forward to season two, and then create those promo pieces and stuff. And I think we were good for the first two episodes, but then we created that pressure for ourselves to keep up for that weekly release, and
Yeah.
if I could go back and do it again, I talk to Armin about it all the time. I think we would have taken our time and just curated all the episodes together and then
Yes.
just kind of dropped it out because like the pressure of people saying, "Hey, when's the season two?" or sorry, "When's the next episode coming out?" or maybe something we noticed something wrong in the edit suite when we're editing the following or
Mhm.
a sequel episode, and then we realize, oh shoot, we missed a shot, or we got to go back and do a pickup day. That delays everything, right? We see it happen on regular television shows, but like
Mhm.
they could afford to do that, right? Like
Yep.
when we're in a stage as like premier creators or premier content creators, like we don't have the luxury to kind of play around with people's interest in your show. And then like imagine there's like a 4 week break between the episode two and then it's three. If you're not promoting and keeping people on the ball about it, like people are already forgetting about your show, and then you have to kind of put more energy to get everyone to come
Yep.
back on your show. So it was a huge life lesson. If we could have definitely gone back, especially with courtside, we definitely probably would have got all the episodes done and then put it out because it became overwhelming, like us being like the first times kind of putting out an idea like this where we had full creative control. We're
Mhm.
bound to make mistakes, we're bound to miss things, we have to do
But
pickup
but
days and all this
I
stuff. So
I think
yeah,
you hit on a great point. The idea of if you're telling a story that is meaningful and you want your audience to fully enjoy it and enjoy that full
yeah,
expression, and also give you the type of replies that you want and the type of engagement that you want, you have to give yourself space, meaning time as a creative, to be able to create properly, right? You
right.
can't bake a cake and expect the cake, a full out size cake, to be baked in 10 minutes. Unless you're making mini cupcakes, that
Hmm.
cake is going to be raw inside. And I think that because sometimes and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we sometimes succumb to the pressure of like trying to create content constantly trying to create content.
Yeah,
We
falling
miss the
the trap.
moment of being able to breathe and give space, because sometimes an edit, even just an edit, you may have written everything right, shot everything right, got the right music, got the right actors, got the right producers, but an edit needs time to breathe. An edit needs a second or a third look. It needs time for you to walk away from it and then come back to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you come back with fresher eyes and a different perspective, or maybe you had a conversation with somebody else that brings a different tone to it, and you want to cut it a little bit differently, right? I've done that so many times. So I get you on that. I do. Where I would differ is that I still wouldn't put out all the episodes. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I learned so much from WandaVision. WandaVision
Hmm.
taught me the power of building momentum off of each and every single episode. because
And
nobody knew
really,
what
yeah.
WandaVision was about, Adrian. And then as they were putting it out, each 9 episodes, right? They had 9 episodes. Each episode built upon the other, and it catapulted to this big sort of like ending, right? Now you can
Yeah.
we can always argue about how it ended, but it made us come back and talk about it more and post on
Yep.
social and Facebook and whatever else, and then that brought more people to it, and it turned it into the number one show, right? So
Yeah.
there is some power to that sort of sustained level of scheduled episode
Yeah.
releases.
No, I definitely agree. I think when I said I wanted, I wish I can go back and kind of have not binge released it, but like collectively released the Courtside series. Because if you think about it, it was the first series that I had a creator title to. So it was the first thing I created a world. The first time I created a world where I was responsible for everything under it and wanted to put it out. I think the main reason why with Courtside specifically, maybe the Netflix approach would have worked better is because you could see it, in the numbers, like the view counts are staggered, for example. So, and because we use that show as such an experimental concept, we even on the finale episode we actually partnered with a company called See Alive, which was this cool new innovative way to kind of get the creators behind the show to almost watch it with the audience and then have an immediate Q&A. But if everyone's in that, that's taking away organic views that could have been on YouTube, right? So it's
Yeah.
like every time you space things out, if you don't have the marketing power and the support to really make sure that this episode gets the same type of response as the
Mm-hmm.
first one, then you're kind of going to be drowning in water. But 100% I agree that spacing out your episodes, when you have the kind of budget to do so, and you have it ready and it's done, and you can come up with a schedule, with a concrete routine to how you're going to release them. 100% that's going to enable the most power and audience effect to your project. So I think for future projects, the WandaVision, approach is definitely the right way to do it. Like you said, you give them time to kind of breathe. You have a whole week to talk about it with your friends. You have the whole
Yep.
week to promote it to your friends.
Yep.
There's memes that get created out of it. There's so many things that can happen within a week of anticipation of waiting for a show. And I think it's genius. Like you're literally getting the audience to do the work for you. So
Yep.
I 100% agree with that approach. I just think for courtside, I think with the anticipation that what we created with the original pilot, I think if we had prevented ourselves from trying to follow up on this, like, oh, we have to release it every week, and then now we're lying because now the episode didn't come out the Friday that we promised it, and then it's like, it gets messy, and you end up taking more energy out of yourself trying to make up for the things that
Mm-hmm.
you promised and weren't able to deliver. So, man, it was a huge learning lesson, man.
No, that's
Huge.
good. No, that's really really dope. Like, talk to me about some of the challenges that you had with regards to like pitching, or maybe people. Have you ever had conversations where people are just like, you're just not that good at this?
Damn. Um,
And how did you respond to something like that?
it may have not been illustrated as those words exactly, like, hey, you're not that good,
Yeah.
but I feel like maybe if I've ever pitched a project, there are definitely, industry ways to kind of water down a rejection, or water down your idea is not ready to take it to the next level, um, to be honest with you, it's the same way I dealt with Courtside, getting that first initial rejection. Like when we pitched it to the IP fund sponsored by Bell, that was the first no I got to intellectual property that I was actually trying to pitch on a global scale, or to a bigger platform that I could share on a global scale. So was already kind of used to the rejection from then, but nowadays they'll find really, really ways to kind of suppress a no, really, without
Mm.
straight out saying, "Hey, your idea sucks." Like, it's not that your idea sucks; it's just sometimes it really does need improvement. So, I'm never offended by someone saying, "Hey, I think this has legs, but it's not ready yet." Like it, for me, it just gives me an opportunity to make it better, or to even find a more befitting home. Like if
Mm-hmm.
it's the same, thing when it comes to one man's garbage is another man's treasure. It's true. Like I look at it the same way in the film world of things. Like Netflix might say no to this, but Crave might say yes to it, or Hulu might say no to it, and Netflix might say yes. Like there's just, like sometimes it's pitching at the right time. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's just, where you pitch it to. Sometimes it's just not the right home, so they have to come up with excuses as to why they don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's they're worried about how this is going to do, and there's just really not enough supporting evidence to kind of come behind your show and support it. Like there's just so many different factors as to why you know you might get a no, or you might get a hey, you suck. But um, I don't know if I've ever let a rejection tell me that I wasn't good at what I do or gonna be successful at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I can
I
definitely
wonder
speak to being rejected.
I wonder if you could kind of share with the audience a little bit about, like, the whole idea of being a black creative, a black creator and creative, versus being a creative that happens to be black. Because I think that sometimes, like, I don't know, like, at least for me, I find it like I don't happen to be black. I'm black whether I like it or not, right? I'm in this skin, right?
Yeah.
But I find that sometimes it's often hard as a black creative to just be seen as like somebody that just wants to tell a story, and that story is from my lens. Now my lens comes from a black lens, yes, but then also from, I'm faith based or Christian. I come from a 2-parent home. I got 3 siblings. I'm a husband and a father. Like, that's also my perspective as well. It's not just because I'm black I have this perspective. I have this perspective because I have a whole boatload of other experiences that come with it. But sometimes, do you feel like almost as black creatives we're almost pigeonholed to kind of feel like we have to? It's different from writing us pigeonholed, but like now the way we create, even the stuff that we create. I was having this conversation with somebody last night, and we were talking about the idea of trauma and how, like, it seems like a lot of black creatives have to or find the legs for a lot of their projects once they start tapping into the traumatic essence of blackness, instead of just the normal essence of being black, of being West Indian, whatever else. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean that that's definitely a conversation that I don't think is ever ending, because we're still trying to figure out the blueprints for the next to do it, and so on. But yeah, no, it's been an active conversation lately. I think that's what's made the industry so glamorized over since the pandemic started. Like, it really did shine a lens, or put a microscope on a lot of the people, the gatekeepers, as I like to call them. The people that actually make the creative decisions to basically greenlight a story that is presented by us, as you mentioned, black creators. It sucks that we can't just be looked at as storytellers or as creators. There always has to be a skin color attached to it, and of course, depending on the story that we're trying to tell, it makes it even more visible that we're black. But yeah, man, it's been something that's been hella scrutinized this year. I think since this pandemic started, a lot of companies have been exposed. A lot of the analytics are coming out, and they're really being confronted about, hey, where's the diversity in your company that you've been promising, or that you've been speaking about. It sucks that there is no certainty as to when this is going to be improved, but I can definitely say that some production companies are literally navigating that road to trying to be allies to us as black creators, and not look at us as a skin color with an idea, but just people with ideas, period. Because if I guarantee, if we were treated the same way that our white counterparts were treated, I think the playing field would be a little bit more even right now, and yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation, this year alone. But that also presents another opportunity in itself, because now the eyes are on us as black creators. Like, now there's a lot of people that's been confronted, that's been outed. A lot of gatekeepers looking to offer opportunities to us, black talent, black creators, to kind of make up for their sins of their past. So now there's a bigger opportunity for us to kind of say, okay, look, like, now's the time to double down. It sucks that I've been suppressed for the last 5 years. I can cry about it, or I can just be ready for the opportunity that's going to come my way now, because
Yeah.
now the lens are on us now. Now it's like, okay, fine. You guys want attention? What do you have? What do you have for us? And it's sad that
Yeah.
we have to look at it that way, but that's
And
how it
and
is.
and it is sad. Sorry, you had something else to add to that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna wrap up by saying, and by no means am I saying, hey, we black people just like need all the opportunities in the world. I'm saying we're just as skilled as some of our white counterparts. So why not just take, an unbiased look at us and actually look at the merit of the idea, the story we're trying to tell, the characters we're trying to develop, or just whatever it is that we're trying to put on the universe. Like look at the merit and the value that it can create
Hmm.
or potentially the impact for. I'm not saying give us an opportunity because we're black. I'm saying give us an opportunity because we're black and we have good ideas. Like, there's when
I was
any one
about
of
to
us
say.
applies, right? When any one of us applies for a job, it's still about what you bring to the table
Hmm.
as a person that could potentially fill the role. It shouldn't be about black or white. It should be about what can you offer, and that's all I'm asking for is a fair chance at being considered.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you because I think that's something that I'm really sensitive about too. Is that again, let's not just want to get the opportunities, but let's actually put our best foot forward, and let's also put our best creatives forward as well.
Mm,
Because the thing is, I don't want this opportunity to pass us by, and we look at it as a wasted opportunity because we just kind of put in whoever, and they're
mm,
not reflective of our best. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And whether it's our best work or our best talent and artists, I still feel like we still got to make sure that we work hard to be dope no matter what. And so I really feel what you're saying in terms of that because I think it's really important. We have to have a sense of pride and intentionality behind everything we do. And if we don't, then we need to figure out how to do that so that the opportunity marries with amazing ideas and dope creatives that can execute on a high level, right? And I think that will ultimately do the most amount of heavy lifting for us because now we don't have to now prove whether or not we can do it. We've already done it and others have, and they've done it well, and they've told stories, and we have the analytics. Now it's just about, okay, like you said before, timing, the way you pitch, who you pitch to, networks, that sort of stuff. And that's all subjective. That's fine, right? Because if I'm a network, if I'm a business owner and I'm trying to figure out what's
Hmm.
the best direction to take my network, I may not want Adrian's, pitch for Courtside for
Hmm.
season 3, right? But I may want Tristan's pitch for whatever, for a documentary, right? Because maybe I'm going in
Hmm.
that direction. That's cool. But I think
Yeah.
like you were saying, oftentimes we're kind of pigeonholed as creatives, black creatives. Either we're not producing or creating or telling enough stories with trauma in them, right?
Yeah.
Or it's not good enough, whatever good enough is. But oftentimes our white counterparts, our counterparts from other communities, they may not be good enough, but then they'll have a mentor, or they'll say, hey, let's partner them up with another writer, a seasoned director, and then let's do this project together. You see what I'm saying? Because they
Exactly.
can see the merits of
And
it. And that's no different than what we want.
and part of the reason is because that's all they know, but at the same time, they have to take accountability for the fact that that's all you know, quote unquote, because that's all
Mm-hmm.
you ever allowed us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't get opportunities to reinvent ourselves or reimagine ourselves, then how are we ever going to change the type of stories that are out there? Like, I don't remember the name of the actress that basically made a vow to herself in her career that she was never going to take part of any project that had to do with any type of black trauma. She's on Blackish. I don't remember the name. Maybe you might know.
Oh, is it is
One of
it
the daughters.
the daughter the daughter that has her own show, Grownish, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, I
Okay.
believe so. I don't want
Yeah,
to mess up who I'm
it's
talking
not.
about, but I'm pretty sure I think she's one of the sisters,
Well, if it's
the
one of the sisters, then
female
it
daughters,
might
the
it
younger
might be
one. I think
oh,
her
the
name is
younger one.
Mashar Masai something something something.
If it's Masai, then I think it's the older one, like the brown skin older sister that has
The one with the
grown.
glasses.
Oh, the one with the glasses. That one is the one that's like a producer director. She had that movie with Issa Rae as well. Forgot what
Yes,
it's called. Yeah, yeah,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. So
yeah.
it's very uplifting to see that, like someone is just trying to take a stand for us to allow gatekeepers to give us more chances, and I'm not saying don't tell traumatic stories. Like if it's part of your story and if it's needed to tell your story, absolutely run with it, but like you said, we're often pigeonholed to do it, and unless it feels natural or organic, then like don't be afraid to try to reinvent or reimagine us as different things. I'm working on a story right now where, I'm taking grains of like, the things that the media portrays us to be, those things. But it's like, why does the next black guy or next black kid growing up have to be the next LeBron James? Like, he doesn't always have to be the next successful basketball player,
Hmm.
or the little girl who likes tennis doesn't have to be the next Serena Williams. Like,
Serena.
she can be a
Yep.
doctor, or so I'm definitely an advocate for trying to reinvent who we are as black people. We have a brain just as good as anybody else, any other race in the world.
Hmm.
So it's like, there's definitely no need for us to be pigeonholing ourselves through the stories that we create, and then telling the same stories over and over, so yeah.
I think it's important, Adrian, to have these conversations. And like the whole reason for the show, the whole reason why I created this show was to be able to get artists, creatives talking to creatives and sharing their journeys and sharing their experiences and sharing like the process. Like this, I look at this show as a legacy piece to pass on to the next generation, to be like, listen, there is no one way, one blueprint, outside of hard work, dedication, being really, really dope at what you do, putting in the hours. There's no blueprint to this. You know what I mean? Every artist's journey is different. It's unique. It's fulfilling in its own way. We all have times where we question ourselves and question our abilities, which is something I want to talk to you about. We all have times where we feel like, you know what, there's too many barriers, there's too many no's. There's times where of euphoria where we get through, and those are amazing opportunities as well. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was like man, what do you do with your time when you're not creating? How do you decompress? Do you have a safe space? Do you have a safe group of people that you connect with that allow you to have a moment to kind of decompress? Because a lot of times, oftentimes, if you're an actor, you're a writer, or you're a director, or you're all three for a project, that can take a toll on you emotionally, mentally, spiritually. How do you kind of get back into the rhythm of recalibrating yourself?
Yeah, it's so important for us as creators, and creatives to decompress and to recalibrate, for when we jump back on the computer or back in our scripts or back in our video or whatever it is we're doing as creatives. But yeah, man, I like to personally, and I know it's kind of associated within the same world. I like to watch movies, as much as that's what I do. I storytell, I write movies, I make movies. Like, as much as that's what I do, like that in itself is a form of, decompression. Just to watch pre-existing, um, products that are already done. And you could just kind of live and breathe in it, and for that moment, and when it's done, go back to doing your own. But video games are another great source of an escape. You literally get to control, the characters in that world of story, and you're
Mm.
actually literally dictating your fate by how skilled you are at that game playing. So, watching movies, playing video games, definitely staying fit. It's definitely been hard during this pandemic to kind of repurpose your own living space as a gym. We pay for
Oh
our
my
memberships,
God.
man. Oh my, yeah. And then all of a sudden, Doug Ford says you're not allowed to go to the gym. It's like, damn, man. It's like, like you just don't have the same motivation in your own space, and not
Mm.
just for me. I can't speak for everybody. I'm sure people have, repurposed their whole living room space or whole basement into a whole world-class gym, but I don't have that type of luxury. So I like to kind of, get my money's worth and go to the facilities that I can use every type of, body instrument that I can use to help, create strength or just sculpt myself, whatever, in these spaces. So it's been hard, but it's definitely very important, So, we have outside nature still, a thing that we can utilize with. You can go bike riding. You can go for a jog, you can go walking, get some fresh air. These are all forms of ways that we need to decompress. Letting oxygen pass through our brains. Just sitting on a computer for too long is not good. Our eyes get drained and things like that. So yeah, those are just a few examples of what I might do as activities to kind of decompress. But our brains are not meant to just be focus on any one thing. Like, they say we only control 10% of our brain. So imagine,
Mm.
I can't imagine what it would be like to have full control of that. But even with the little percentage that we're allowed to use, it needs exercise, it needs breaks, it needs air, it needs food. So yeah, recalibration as a creative is 100% essential, man.
So, what are some of the things that you're working on? If you can share with us or speak to us about that a little bit, and how can we support you on that?
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely always something going on in the pipeline. Ideally, I would love to kind of revisit Courtside and kind of revise season two. We have some skeleton scripts kind of developed for it. As I mentioned, we were lucky to get in some doors and kind of soft pitch it a little bit to let them know who we are as creators and what we're working on. So, Courtside season two would definitely be a project I'd like to revisit in the near future. I am working on a dope, original TV series as well that kind of takes place in the college atmosphere, student teacher type of relationship thing. It's another one of those examples that kind of bring two different worlds together. Someone who's maybe been, rich their whole life, and then community college kids that really haven't had that luxury, and how those kind of worlds collide, and change versus tradition type themes, and just a lot of the stuff that we deal with as young adults trying to navigate through love, philosophy, and relationship, career, all that stuff. So I'm really excited about that. I've been working on it for some time now. Without saying too much, of course, but and then there's like the directorial debut. I was lucky enough to have written my first debut back in 2020. It was a feature film called Because We Are, which is now being kind of screened at film festivals right now.
Dope,
We're looking to get it distributed. I'm not sure if you know about that project. You
dope,
might have seen
dope,
the
dope,
trailer.
dope, dope, dope.
Yeah, so you might have seen the trailer, Tristan. But yeah, so we had the luxury of putting that out. Got into Montreal, Halifax, Toronto. So it's been screened and premiered already, and we're looking for distribution for it now. And that was an example of a project that came out at a really, really appropriate time. With a lot of the injustices that happen towards our people. And the things that are happening in the media right now, or not in the media though, things that are happening in the world that the media is showcasing. The wrongful terminations of our lives, sometimes justified, most of the times not, and just it deals with, just being a black man in America or Canada, and just having to navigate life as a black man, and dealing with the people who are supposed to serve and protect, who are really, often caught abusing their power, and dealing with authoritative figures. So that was a film that couldn't have come out at a better time. So I'm definitely lucky to have been part of that project. And I'm looking to do my own feature film that I'm currently writing, and looking to make my directorial feature debut. So yeah, man, a lot going on in the creative pipeline, man.
Dope. No, no,
Oh,
that's exciting. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. No, I was gonna say, I mean, in terms of, because like I often skip this part. I often skip the part of how can we support. Listen, when I drop the news, whatever it may be, like obviously you can support by if it's to watch it, you can watch it. If it's a crowdfunding thing, then putting your little 2 cents in it, I'm sure goes a long way. We're taking 2 cents multiplied by 2,000 people. Like, it really does make a difference. Me
That's
kind
only
of
about
being
like $20 though. So maybe
yeah,
not two
yeah.
cents. Like,
We'll work out the math. We'll work out the math. I'll probably ask for a little bit more. Like Spike Lee's, that guy is just unconscious when it comes to asking for money. That guy does not spend a single cent of his money, but it's well played, and you can learn a lot from a guy like that, a master class like Spike Lee's. But yeah, no, support goes a long way. We as black creators, sad to say, we need as much support as we can get, and I don't think we need to fall in that trap of like a popular contest or anything like that, or cloud. Like, I do feel like like there's room for everyone to kind of win and be successful. Like, my success shouldn't hinder yours, Tristan, or vice versa. Like, I think we can all lock arms and kind of climb the ladder together. So support is super, super essential. So yeah, man, if I share a trailer with you guys for something maybe upcoming that I'm writing or directing or producing, I'd love that to be shared on top of that, and send it to a friend and have that friend send it to a friend. It's just the power of the community kind of
yeah.
sharing our work towards other parts of our community. So yeah, man, I'm glad you asked that question. But yeah, I mean, my Instagram is at a dubs, so EHDUBZ. A couple
And it's
extra
not
Z's
A
for my
as in
Twitter.
the letter A. It's not the letter A. It's
Yeah.
A like a like
Hey, like Canadian,
like a
like,
man's
hey,
the
you
A.
know what I mean? Yeah. And I know you didn't ask for the history lesson behind it, but it's just a combination of my first and last initial, A dubs. But it's also like I'm Canadian, so A, and then dubs. Everyone likes to win, right? A dubs is a win, right? So, that was kind of the creative background behind it. But yeah, so that's where you can kind of find me, and feel free to check out my website. You can get a hold of me there too as well.
No, that's dope. That's dope. I think the last thing I'd like to give you the opportunity to say or do is just share a little bit with the people. Just those that are up and coming artists that are trying to get into this business, that are trying to learn, trying to grow, that are inspired by your story and others. What sort of advice would you give them? How would you help them? Like, what are some of the things that they should look out for on this path of trying to find their voice and figure out who they are as a creative artist?
Yeah. Simply put, don't fall into the traps of being part of a trend. Like it's so easy for us to get caught in that wave of trends. And like, there's so many cool things happening around us, and people getting noticed for stuff like TikTok and stuff. And that's cool, like follow your passions for sure. But I mean, like if there is a story that you feel really passionate about or something you really want to do, like you said, Tristan, earlier, give yourself the time to meditate around it, give yourself the time to grow and really be effective at it. I definitely believe we as creatives need to be consistent so that we're taken seriously, of course, but it's also what are we doing consistently? Like, are we consistently putting out quality efforts or quality products? Like we don't want to become one of those people or creatives that just put out stuff to kind of just stay as part of like a number or another analytic and just to kind of be, there, like, and depending on what your motivation is, like maybe your motivation is to create a viral video, or maybe your motivation is to create a conversation about anti-gun violence or something. Like just know your story, know your mission, know why you're doing it, and I promise you the rest will kind of support itself. My philosophy as a filmmaker, and as much as it is amazing to get the awards, to be part of the same rooms and conversations as some of the top to ever do it in the industry, whether you're a director, an actor, or a writer. My simple philosophy is like if I can get just one person in the audience out of 100 to laugh, cry, smile, provoke a thought, or just have them go about life differently or reflect on something at the end of the show or what I present, like my job as a filmmaker is done. I literally was able to alter the mind or the emotions of someone's state. And if I could do that, that means something in there was powerful enough for you to change, like from one thing to another. So that's really my general philosophy when it comes to me telling stories.
That's dope, man. No, honestly, man, this is a great conversation. I really appreciate you being here, Adrian. Mr. Wallace, William Wallace. Appreciate you.
Wow,
You know
man.
already know
Shout out
you.
to you, Tristan. This, this is a great thing you're doing, man. And we need more people like you, bringing people like us together and really having these safe space conversations and, just addressing life for what it is and the state it is and, how we plan to navigate going forward because we can't do it alone. I learned that, man. We definitely can't do this alone. So shout out to you, Tristan. It's a good look,
Dope.
man. It's a great look, actually.
No, man.
Yeah,
No, I
man.
appreciate it, man. And from the time I met you, I was like, yo, dope. You're a multi-man. Cool. You're doing some creative stuff. And I honestly can't wait until we can work on some stuff together because I think that there are so many stories to be told between our two experiences and the people we know and just living those that have ever gone to Malton, have ever lived there for even a short period of time, couple months. You'll understand when we say that Malton is a place of its own. It's a beast of its own in good ways and in bad. But there's so many authentic, real, interesting people that you can meet there that their stories need to be told. So I'm really excited about seeing what you and your team are going to do and just staying connected to you and hopefully creating some stuff in the future with you. Appreciate you being a part of the show. And for those that are listening and watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Just want to say, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on the Twitters, like my mom would say, the Twitters. And listen, if you like the conversation, conversation. If you love the conversation, share it. Share it. Tell people about the podcast. Let people know that there are creatives talking to other creatives, sharing their creative process, because it's all about that. And it's all about sharing it with the world and allowing you guys to feel inspired. Until the next time, stay blessed, stay positive, and stay safe. Peace, y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Creative to Creative podcast with Tristan Barracks. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. If you would like to be a guest, please email us at info@tristanbarracks.com. Peace.